Checking in, Mr. Hausman?
Yeah, totally checking in. Man, am I excited to be back here in Austin. So much great nightlife, so much great food. I've been traveling so much and I'm super busy, but I really can't wait to get out and see some of the local attractions again.
That sounds like a great trip, but you're in Houston.
Ew.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to this week's No Vacancy podcast with me, your host, Glenn Hausman. Man, I got to admit it to you, I may sound like I'm entirely with you, but I am freaking pooped. I am exhausted. I really just want to hit the couch and take a good nap today. But let me tell you, I'm just excited to share with you some great interviews that I've been doing. For those of you who have been following the No Vacancy show, I have been on the road literally every single week for at least 2 or 3 days since the beginning of January. And I know for some of you road warriors out there, that's not a big deal. But for me, it's making me really darn sleepy. So I'm very excited to just be here. And we're going to keep this first part short. I got a couple of great interviews that I recorded during the California Lodging Investment Conference. That's the CLIC Conference, as it's colloquially known. You can find them at CLIC Conference, CLIconference.com, to join us next year. But this year's was a great event, and I had so much fun attending it at the beginning of March of this year. And I spoke to a lot of great people over there. So I do want to say before we get going, if you haven't joined our weekly Sunday night newsletter, be sure to get that. It's easy to sign up to it. Either go to novacancynews.com and subscribe there, or just text the word hotel to 66866. That's right. Just text the word hotel to 66866 and it'll prompt you for your email, and we'll get you all hooked up with that. So for today, we've got several interviews. Our premiere interview today is going to be with the president of La Quinta, and that's Mr. Raj Trivedi. I've known Raj for a long time and watched him as he really grew in his role over the last 20 years and saw what he did when he helped launch La Quinta's franchising efforts and really brought that company into the mainstream, extremely profitable, which allowed them to have a lot of successes. They were purchased by Wyndham of June of last year, so I catch up with Raj and we talk all about what that transition was like from its rocky start to a great place that they seem to be right now with their folks that are franchising with them. But as I promised, we got a couple of interviews here before we get started. The first one of which is with Jim Butler. Of course, you all know him as a lawyer and consultant to hotel owners and developers. He's been involved in a lot of the major legal issues that we want to know about. Plus, he's the man behind Meet the Money conference coming out of Southern California. And then our second interview of today is with Mr. Ron Kim, and he's the SVP of Prospera Hotels. And I personally was excited to do this one because they found a great niche in the Anaheim market. And we talk about how deep can that go. Is this market the perfect market to be in? I mean, with all the money that Disneyland is spending right now to expand, is this the place do you want to be? And we even talk about the logic of whether or not to put all your money into the Disneyland basket. Great conversation with Ron. Great conversation with Jim. I know you're going to love the one with Raj. So let's get right into the one with Jim. But before we do that, I do want to say thank you to the good folks at Almo Hospitality for being a great new sponsor of the No Vacancy podcast. Be sure you follow Almo Hospitality. Find them on Facebook. Find them on LinkedIn. Make sure you like those companies. They're doing great stuff. I think you're going to love what they're up to. They've been focused a lot on hospitality technology, but they've also introduced a great new outdoor furniture line called Cape Soleil Collection. Really gorgeous. I shot some videos with them in Chicago to help them launch that event, so you've probably seen those online. You can find them on the No Vacancy Network too, and of course on the Almo Hospitality pages. All around, great stuff. I'm feeling pretty good. I know I'm getting sleepier and sleepier as I do this conversation, but it's okay. You guys rock. I really appreciate all the love and support that I get from each one of you every single time. And I want to thank the good folks at Cobblestone Hotels and the good folks over at Stonebridge Companies, where I've been where Anthony and I from our Checking In podcast did a couple of live shows from each of those conferences over the last 2 weeks. That was a lot of fun. And also thanks to Stonebridge for allowing me to be a keynote speaker at your event. On top of that, We talked about the great issue of why, if you're at the property level, why, if you're a GM or director of sales, you need to think like an owner, and how you could do it by being extremely selfish about your career. So if you want to hire me for any of your major industry events that you have, perhaps you have a small meeting, perhaps you have a mid-sized meeting, perhaps you got a larger size annual conference, well, ask me to be to host your event or give a speech there. I'm looking forward to it. At the end of this month, I actually am very excited to be participating in a session at Choice Hotels' annual conference, one of the brand sessions. I'll have more about that with you in the next coming weeks, but we're having a lot of fun going all over the world, doing a lot of great shows from all these locations, and I just can't wait to bring you a lot more. But before that, I'm going to go take that nap I promised for myself, and I hope you guys keep listening and sticking around each week for the No Vacancy podcast. Meanwhile, enjoy these interviews with Jim Butler first, Mr. Ron Kim second, and then after the commercial break from our great sponsor at Red Roof, we're going to hear from Raj Trivedi over at La Quinta. So thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon. Oh yeah, don't let me forget, I almost forgot. Your trip is short. Bye. All right, hey, Glenn here, and we are at the CLIC Conference, which is long over by the time you guys hear this, but I had the opportunity to speak to a lot of great people, and right now I have with myself the one and only Jim Butler, who's partner, chairman of the Global Hospitality Group of JMBM, and of course he's one of the most well-known lawyers, I think, in our entire business. Jim, it is so glad to talk to you. You're definitely a guy that I've been watching from afar and admiring, not in a weird, stalky kind of way, though.
Thank you, Glenn. Happy to talk with you.
So it's exciting to have you here. And I'm curious as to what some of the biggest issues that you're seeing out there right now. And I know something that's super pressing right now is the whole idea of labor. As expenses continue to go up, labor is a big component of that. And I'm noticing hoteliers are grappling with this issue. And it's not just paying people a few dollars more an hour so they won't go down the street. It seems to be a little bit more complex. Am I oversimplifying it? How are you seeing it right now?
No, I think that's a good summary of the problem. The living wage issue is a very severe problem, right. As in a number of cities, $15 an hour is becoming the minimum wage.
Right.
I had an interesting discussion with a client the other day in the Midwest, and they are fighting against $25 an hour wages for harvesting pot.
Right.
So all of a sudden...
Can't they just pay you in buds?
I don't know, but it does.
Well, I knew somebody that got paid, but they helped prepare stuff, and then they took home some souvenirs. But I think that was more of a hobby than anything else.
Well, we do have a cannabis group that works with folks on how to do that stuff the right way, but that's a different subject.
Right, yeah, exactly. I really need to start a cannabis podcast. It's such an interesting business right now, especially in the hotel businesses. Everyone's trying to figure out how they could get in. But that's not the topic we're talking about today. We're talking about increasing labor costs.
Exactly. And this is a big part of our practice nationwide, where our labor people help hotels, developers, either avoid unions where that's possible, or where they have union contracts, negotiate contracts they can live with.
Right. So, okay. So, the big issue for the AHLA over the past number of years, you remember card check and all? It was kind of a backhanded way to get people to join a union, right? Even if they were satisfied with their employment. I haven't heard a lot about that issue lately, but...
That continues to be a big issue, particularly on development, permitting, things like that.
Right.
The unions have used their funds very well. They have contributed to campaigns at every level of city, county, state, federal government, and increasingly regulators at every level require of folks a neutrality agreement or card check agreement, as you're referring to, which gives the unions a big head start in organizing a place. There is no such thing as a standard card check agreement, though, by the way. So when you have to do a card check agreement to get that liquor license or that permit, you really need to go to your labor lawyer and get them to help you get the best one you can.
Well, that's a good piece of advice. So what is the problem with unions? I say this as a neutral arbiter. Why is it such a problem for them to come into the average hotel?
Well, let me put it this way. The average union hotel costs substantially more to run than the same hotel operation in the same box. So, and it actually isn't the wages so much. One might think, oh, well then those workers are getting more money.
Right.
No, it tends to be the work rules. So how many units a day does a housekeeper have to do? Do they do 15? Does changing a floor constitute a unit? Does every single room, is the bathroom, the bedroom, the kitchen, is every one of those a unit? Are you done when you really finish one hotel room?
That's crazy, because then I just think, well, what if you walk in, it's completely spotless, and all you have to do is change the sheets? Does that count the same?
These work rules can really kill you.
Okay.
We had one client in the Rust Belt that had a 51% cost of labor. 51% of gross revenues went to labor.
And then
they were
a
going
big chunk
bankrupt.
goes to the brand.
Because they had to have a different person handing out menus at the restaurant. That person couldn't clear tables.
Right.
The people who cleared couldn't serve. I mean, the rules that make you have 6 people to do one job.
It's rules that go beyond the reasonable.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Look, everybody, or at least most of us enlightened people today, think that we shouldn't have slave labor, we shouldn't have sweatshops.
Right.
But it's all a question of, can you have a reasonable work environment where everybody can make a little money too?
Right. And it's interesting that you say that, because I'm always struck at that balance that you have to try to achieve. And I hear from hoteliers all the time that labor is going up so much and it's really hurting their ability to do businesses. But at the same time, I sympathize with the workers who have a right to earn an income for them to support their families and live somewhere. Right? So it's really tough to find that balance, and I guess that's why you're called on so often.
Exactly.
So is there a solution at all?
It's a constant battle to manage and control expenses.
Right.
And one must be diligent over every aspect of that. We're just seeing something with the new Long Beach ordinance. They call it the panic button ordinance. It is supposedly to prevent room workers from being harassed, raped, or abused when they're in the rooms. Mm-hmm. But guess what? If you are with a union, you don't have to have a panic button. It's kind of a way of imposing a tax on people who don't have the union. There's always something. It's a continual battle.
Well, I guess that's why you seem so happy. I'm just kidding. But okay, so that's one big issue that we're dealing with, and I sense that another issue that you're dealing with out there is. And it's the whole issue of data privacy, right? Europe put into all of these rules that are very stringent. I'm not sure all Americans understand them. I think you could accidentally not follow them and get yourself into trouble. What are some of the issues that you're seeing up that hoteliers are struggling with, and how are you helping them achieve success?
Well, there are 2 major branches of this problem. You're right. The California just had a new data privacy law go into effect in January of 2019. The European Union had its own rules that are different but sort of the same, and if you basically have any people from the European Union at your hotel, you better be in compliance.
Right.
And these are technical rules. It's sort of one more thing to check. Everybody really should be sure that they are in compliance with the EEU and the California and similar data privacy. The second branch, though, is really illustrated by the data breaches, and that is what steps does a hotelier, a hotel operator, an owner need to take to keep their data secure so that the email addresses and security numbers and credit cards of their guests are not dispersed to hackers in Korea or wherever it may be.
Yeah, and that makes sense on the face of it, but what if something does happen and I've done in what I believe is all I could have done? Are you still liable?
We have a group, our cybersecurity and data security group, that works with people to meet those protocols. There is a standard. There are things that people should be doing, and so you and I, Glenn, aren't going to know exactly what we ought to do, but we get someone like this to come in and make sure we have the right protocols, the right procedures, the training, the right equipment, and so on. it's a two-pronged battle. First, before you have the problem, you should do all the reasonable things you could to prevent the problem.
Right.
Otherwise, you may have some significant liability. Secondly, when the problem happens, you need to go into crisis mode. And there are required disclosures you need to make, required reports, things you can do to control your liability and exposure, and you need to have your team all organized and ready to go with your program.
Excellent. Is this something that would cost a whole lot of money? Because we've been talking about how expenses are rising, and my instinct tells me that some hoteliers might try to cut corners because it's not something that you could see until it's too late.
This is really a classic ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Right. It is not a major expense item, but it is going to be 100 times more expensive after the fact than it is before.
Excellent. This has been a great conversation. I hope that everyone here is enjoying it as much as I did. I think we've got to two great topics today. I'm going to have you come back for a longer podcast conversation and really get into this, if you're up to it.
I would look forward to that, Glenn.
But Jim, before we wrap up, I'd love to give everyone a chance for a shameless plug. How can they find you and your firm?
Jim Butler, the hotel lawyer. Google it. We're the first result that comes up organically. I'm based in Los Angeles, and I work 24/7, so give me a ring.
Nice. Excellent. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank all of you guys for listening. We'll be back soon with another mini shot here from the CLIC Conference. So I'm with Mr. Ron Kim. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Prospera Hotels. You're doing a lot of stuff in Anaheim, isn't that right?
We are a large developer in Anaheim, yes.
All right, so this is really interesting to me because you've got the world's largest locals theme park there, otherwise known as the Disneyland Resort, and that must be an interesting kind of universe to be operating in, to have so many hotels that are in a large way either dependent on traffic to Disneyland or the convention business right there, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
What is that market like? How do you see the market? And tell me a little bit about your experiences there.
So we started in Anaheim in 2003 with the acquisition of the Cortona Inn & Suites, which is a 127-room, limited-service, exterior-quarter hotel next to the convention center.
Right.
Since then, we've grown to 6 hotels, 1,213 rooms in the Anaheim market. And the reason why we love Anaheim is, like you said, Disney brings in 50 million visitors. And then you have the Anaheim Convention Center, which is the largest convention center in the West Coast.
Right. Is it?
It is.
Seriously?
It is, yes.
It's really surprising.
It's the largest contiguous convention center.
Okay.
Yeah. And that just drives business for the city of Anaheim. The occupancy in Anaheim is over 85%.
Jeez.
Our portfolio is running between 85 to 90%. You can't get into Disneyland Hotel. You can't get into the Grand California Hotel.
You can if you want to drop over a grand a night.
Well, sure,
make a reservation here in advance.
Exactly. So the occupancies of those hotels are, well over 90%. So there's continuous demand for Anaheim.
Right.
Yeah.
I just happened to be there a few weeks ago after the America's Lodging Investment Summit. A couple of buddies and I went down to Anaheim to check out the Disneyland Resort and see all the changes that are happening down there. And it's a really interesting dynamic that's occurring there right now. Disney has been trying to figure out a way to keep everybody on the property all the time, right? Now, obviously, the hotels in the area would prefer that not to happen, and there's been kind of a little bit of a headbutting that's going on over there. But I don't think that that's something that you're really concerned about with such high occupancy levels.
No, we're not concerned, and we're in the Anaheim Resort. Most of our guests either take the Anaheim resort transportation buses to Anaheim, or they walk.
Right.
So it's a very close proximity to all of our hotels. So despite I guess that's one advantage of being at a Disney hotel is you get that early 1 hour access, and,
right.
and you're technically on property. But if you're in the Anaheim Resort, you're still close enough to Disneyland where you can walk or easy.
I mean, we spent the day going to both the theme parks, and I happen to have it all figured out. So I use my Max Pass in conjunction with single rider lines, in conjunction with knowing which rides are lower traffic.
Yeah.
So we were able to hit everything we wanted to in both parks in one day. So for me, having that extra hour in the morning is important. I would rather feel like I'm getting a good value at a non-Disney hotel.
See, we would want you to stay, not cram everything in one day. We want you to cram everything in 2 to 3 days.
And
so
if
you're
I was
staying
with
at our hotels longer.
If I was with my family, I would have, but I was already gone for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And quite frankly,
I'm
if I was,
kidding.
I'm not. I really want to stay there multiple days. I may just move in with you guys come June when Galaxy's Edge opens.
Well, so that is going to be the most anticipated opening that all of Anaheim and the businesses in Anaheim are expecting.
Right, so if anyone doesn't know what Galaxy Edge is, it's Star Wars Land that's opening at Disneyland Park in June, and then in the fall in Walt Disney World in Orlando. But practically speaking, for a guy like you, it's really going to be driving a lot of traffic theoretically to your area. Are you already seeing a bump for reservations on June, July, and beyond?
Absolutely. Now, the one caveat is Disney hasn't officially announced when.
Not officially, but it was let slip that it's going to be June 23rd. So I know that much.
So, our budget is weighted for the second half of the year, and our bookings are very, very strong, and next year will be even stronger.
So if this market is doing so great, what opportunities do you have left? Is it going to be too expensive to develop new hotels? Are you forced to reposition current hotels in order to extract more dollars? What is your philosophy going forward?
So it's a good question. There's not that many parcels left to develop.
Right.
But we control one of those parcels. So right now we're building the JW Marriott, which is 466
You're building
keys.
the JW Marriott.
We're building.
Wow.
We're on the 11th floor. We top out next month, or actually this month. That's going to be 466 keys. We own the other parcel that's on the corner of Disney Way and Clementine, which is going to be 400 keys, luxury brand. So that's in our development pipeline. There are some parcels that we have where we could potentially develop, where we have a surface parking lot and we can potentially develop another 300 rooms, but we'd have to build a parking structure.
Right.
And there's some pockets of areas that we're sort of eyeing.
Yeah, but you don't want to say what they are because then someone will steal it from you or raise the price on you, right?
But we've grown tremendously since 2013. We opened a hotel almost every year. 2014 was Hyatt Place, 2015 Homewood Suites, 2016 Hyatt House, and in 2019 January, just a couple months ago, we opened up Hampton. And with JW Marriott under construction, we're betting big in Anaheim. And a lot of these, like JW Marriott, that started construction before we knew that Disney was going to do this, massive Star Wars.
Really? When did you start construction on that?
We started construction November of 2017, but we had some. There was some litigation that sort of delayed the project for a while.
So you were thinking about it a number of years beforehand.
Yeah, so we were going to build 466 keys, regardless of what we knew of Disney's plans for Star Wars Land or Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
But we have a long-term vision, and we know Disney's not going anywhere. The Anaheim Convention Center's not going anywhere. We just have a long-term outlook, and we really like Anaheim. Anaheim's been very good.
That's pretty awesome that you guys are finding such success in one market.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. Does it ever worry you that you've got too many eggs in the Anaheim basket?
Yeah, we asked ourselves that question. But we are looking outside of Anaheim as well.
Right.
We do have a site down in San Diego in the Gaslamp District where. We're considering, building
that's
a
a great
hotel
market
there.
too.
Yeah, that's a great market. We've been looking up in the Bay Area. We've been looking outside of Anaheim, Orange County, LA County. But we want to be selective about our growth. It's been very difficult to find a a good deal because land prices have increased
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
bet.
Construction costs have increased a lot. But I think for us, one of the opportunities for us is we're vertically integrated. Did I mention that?
Nope.
Okay. So we're a developer, builder, owner, operator. And so we don't third-party build, we don't third-party manage, and we don't third-party develop. We're vertically integrated. And one of the things that we've done is we've been very flexible in terms of our capital structure and how we structure a deal. So we'll work with a landowner who may not know anything about a hotel and wants to do something in the hotel space. We could either do a ground lease.
Right.
We could joint venture. So we're very flexible in that sense.
Awesome. How stoked were you when Disney canceled their luxury hotel?
Yeah, that's one less competitor to worry about, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, right?
But yeah.
It's so interesting. So congratulations on all of this cool stuff. I'm definitely going to have to come back down there. And the good news is that the lines are going to be so long for Galaxy Edge, they'll probably go right to your hotel.
Yeah. Well, bring your family. You're welcome to stay at any of our hotels.
Thanks. Yeah, for a special rate of twice what everyone else is paying, I'm sure.
No.
I'm just kidding. You guys are going to be doing so great come summertime. I'm very excited to
thank you. We're
to
looking
see
forward
what
to
you're
it.
up
Thank
to.
you so much.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, I'd like to give everybody a good chance for a shameless plug. How can they find you, Ron, at Prospera Hotels?
So we're at www.prosperahotels.com, and then you can see our story there. You can see a picture of all of our hotels. You can meet our executive team, and I guess.
Good plug-in.
Is that a good plug?
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, the last guy I had in the mic just plugged for like 45 minutes.
Okay.
So, that was
we try to stay humble.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on all the good stuff. And I want to thank everybody for listening today. What a great story that was. And we'll see you next time in the No Vacancy Podcast.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, Glenn here. So for the past couple of months, I've been sharing with you all the exciting things that have been going on with Red Roof. And today, I want to talk to franchisees looking to get in on the explosive growth of the extended stay segment. You know how much I love that segment. I'm really behind this segment. And Red Roof is getting behind this segment too with Hometown Studios by Red Roof. They're introducing it right now in a phased launch with over 30 properties across more than 20 markets with over $50 million in renovation. So they're betting big on these apartment-style studios that are going to offer the amenities guests really want today, such as upgraded decor, a kitchenette, full-size refrigerator, on-site laundry facilities, free Wi-Fi, of course, and more, and more, and more, all while continuing Red Roof's tradition of clean, comfortable accommodations at an unmatched value. And speaking of value, I'm pretty sure USA Today readers for the second year in a row named Red Roof the best budget hotel brand in America. So franchisees get that amazing brand awareness that customers already have, plus a seasoned management team and a richest-in-class loyalty program with more than 2.5 million members. And that just happens to be the least expensive for owners, too. Man, these guys are crushing it. And that's in addition to their award-winning marketing department and a dedicated website based on their fastest in-class with mobile-first technology. Finally, with Hometown Studios by Red Roof, you'll be working with a company with a franchisee satisfaction of 94%. How great is that? And those franchisees will tell you genuine relationships, real results. It isn't just some slogan, it's how Red Roof does business. Get in on a new way to extended stay. Visit redrooffranchising.com or give them a call at 888-473-8861. That's 888-473-8861.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the No Vacancy Podcast with me, your host, Glenn Hausman. Man, I am stoked for today's interview because I have the one and only Mr. Raj Trivedi, president of Quinta with me. Raj, man, how are you, sir?
I always have been honored to do this with you, Glenn. It's always been a pleasure. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
That's great. I think this might be the first time you're actually on this iteration of my podcast series, the No Vacancy podcast series. I feel like I had you once on back in the old days.
That is correct.
Right?
That is
when
correct.
I was pioneering it.
Yes,
and,
that is so true.
It's great to have you back. So, You're coming up now on a year of the acquisition by Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. And I got to tell you, I was surprised as all heck when this deal happened. Why don't we give me a little let's take the temperature of where you're at right now, because I know it came as a shock to the community, and they responded in a surprising, shocked kind of way.
Well, I tell you what, it has been nothing but pleasant experience so far. Personally, as well as for our franchise partner, how well Wyndham has received similarities in our culture, the way we do business, the openness of leadership from Wyndham's side, accepting best practices from La Quinta, and also allowing us to evaluate their best practices. So all in all, it's been a perfect marriage.
Well, all right. That was awfully good corporate response, by the way. I really do like that. So I would like to know what it was like. You're integrating your organization in with the wider Wyndham organization. What is that process like? What does it mean for you leading the brand?
You know, I tell you what, it was absolutely a fantastic experience as I saw many of my team members getting involved in multiple different areas of Wyndham in general. David Wilner, who happens to be my Senior VP of Development, now handles development for all of their emerging new construction brands. So his role has emerged in larger capacity. Design and construction team has emerged into a larger capacity. Now they're taking care of all of the designs for new brands and existing brands for Wyndham and providing tremendous feedback. Our operations team is integrated in the best fashion within the Wyndham operations team. Our procurement team is working with Wyndham Procurement to do different things. So all in all, things have been going so very smoothly. And as I had indicated at the time of integration, La Quinta has benefited by greater exposure in international arena. We are so excited to see over the next few weeks integration in technology and loyalty program. And obviously, our franchise partners already started seeing the cost savings in various areas, including OTA costs for their properties.
Okay, so you feel that this was a great move for the organization because La Quinta for a lot of years was all about we're going to be the only brand, we're going to stay in that category. And even though you guys were telling me that for years and years and years, I was always like scratching my head, like how's this gonna work out? So it makes sense now that you are becoming part of the larger family that you're going to start to enjoy cost savings and all of those kinds of savings. Is the Wyndham? Have you been integrated into the Wyndham reservation system?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So that's what's coming.
Yes.
Next.
So technology integration includes CRS, PMS, as well as loyalty program and website integration. So that is expected to happen early April.
So once that happens, what do you expect is going to be the net result for the community of La Quinta hotel owners?
You know, I will tell you this: it will be a tremendous technology improvement. The features in the new systems are much, much more robust than what we were able to provide. As you mentioned earlier, that we were tremendously proud of what we did as a single brand, no question about it. We were tremendously proud of our culture. We were tremendously proud of our growth and relationship. However, in the era of integration, in the era of consolidation, sooner or later that was going to happen, and we could not have found a better partner than Wyndham, or I am proud to be a part of Wyndham family because now we are among the elite brands of Wyndham. We've provided tremendous consistency in our product and services, and franchisees have access to more resources. So as I look at technology, obviously, we are going to have a much greater opportunity to integrate with newer, modern system that allows greater features for our franchise partner. As I look at a loyalty program, we now have, instead of just having 10, 11 million members, 56 additional members from Wyndham Rewards looking and seeking to come and stay at our property.
Right, 56 million.
Yes, 56 million. That is correct.
56 would be very sad.
Yeah, 56 million. So altogether, combined total number will be somewhere in 60 million plus. So that is absolutely awesome.
That is absolutely awesome. It'll be great to see what kind of results that the La Quinta properties get once everything is integrated, and then how other brands within Wyndham start to get a little bit of an uplift as well.
So some of the taste has already been seen. Our brand was presented as a recommendation or, through the other Wyndham brand websites. We have seen the increased traffic on website. We have seen increased booking through those channels. We have seen reduction in the cost of OTA. And by Wyndham tag, as it becomes more popular and awareness increases, La Quinta recognition internationally is going to grow exponentially.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that growth, but I definitely want to talk about you and your personal journey and all that stuff too. But let's do a good temperature of the La Quinta brand itself. So give me all the statistics, where are we at, where are you going, all that kind of good stuff.
So you know what? I think the path of growth continues. La Quinta now has crossed 900 plus properties open. We are almost 915. We have a pipeline of more than 260 hotels. 90+% is new construction. Brand is continuing to grow market share. The greatest news for 2019 after acquisition that STR has recognized, STR has recognized La Quinta as an upper mid-market brand. We are continuing to produce the numbers in loyalty. Interest in our brand has remained robust. We are signing agreements in new urban markets. Internationally, I was actually traveling exponentially in last few weeks to go meet with various international divisions of Wyndham to promote La Quinta brand and give them understanding of what La Quinta brand is all about, which was received tremendously positive. So it has been a fast, busy pace, days, but very productive. And I'm quite delighted to see all those things.
So you said STRs recognize the brand as upper mid-scale?
That is correct.
Okay, so what does that mean for the brand itself overall? Because when you start, you move up in a category, right? So does that mean that your existing hoteliers have to add a PIP in order to meet that, or do you already have the standards in place that are allowing that to happen? How does it change the overall makeup and feel of stuff?
So we were always competing with, our three biggest competitive brands, been Hampton, Holiday Inn Express, Fairfield, and
Right.
Suites. So now STR recognizing that.
So
too.
you were already there, you just weren't
Exactly,
recognized.
exactly.
Right.
And so the amenities, facility, looks point of view, in my opinion, our facility or our Del Sol design is a lot superior than many of the competitive design. Not only it's superior in looks, but it is very efficient. It has among the highest percentage of revenue-producing square feet in comparison to competitive brand. Cost of construction is within the limits of what it should be.
I'm glad you said that square foot thing, because I recall when you introduced that prototype, we had an extensive conversation all about how you really went through every aspect of the hotel to try to figure stuff out. And I recall you thinking like you were considering amount of footsteps it would take from one area to the other to save time. So all of those pennies saved adds up to real dollars.
Well, not only that, not only guest perspective, which is, in my opinion, the most important perspective, but we also looked at with operators, owners' perspective too, that they can actually utilize team to do multifunction and save money. In today's days of difficulties in labor, how wonderful it is for properties to have back-of-the-house functions right behind the front desk where you can have your night auditors do additional functions and accomplish things that you need to.
It's funny. It was so radical to me. Oh, they could just get some towels right there.
Yeah, but not only that. I mean, if you think about it, a novel concept of doing laundry at night. Your utility cost is lower, productivity of your employees higher, and your awareness and the business productivity increases dramatically.
Well, that's that makes a whole lot of sense. So, you've got this prototype. You're doing well with development. You have an incredibly robust pipeline. I want to talk a little bit more about the international picture that you have, because it seems, and I could be wrong, because you've always been great at selling hotels. That's how you cut your teeth there in the industry. How is being part of the Wyndham Hotels and Resorts family opening up opportunities globally for you that you may not have had prior?
That is such an important question. The cost of expansion, international expansion, is so high. As a single brand, it was difficult. Generating, creating, building resources in each territory is almost impossible. Obviously, we had started our process in Latin America, South America, and we were putting the best foot forward. However, still, La Quinta had somewhat limited resources. Now, becoming a part of Wyndham family gives us such a large level of resources, the teams, established team in all areas from operations to sales to revenue management, and that is so good for our franchise partners. Now we have teams in Europe, Asia, Pacific Rim, and all of the places around the world, so many offices, and so much awareness of Wyndham brand. That is going to give us the greatest opportunity for looking to grow.
So those international offices, they help with both selling to franchisees, correct? And then also sales and marketing for existing hotels?
They actually are almost an independent business for the region, and they conduct and run every aspect of the business, from franchise development to openings to franchise services to sales and revenue management and relationship.
Huh. So let's talk about you for a little bit. You're now president of a brand. That's an incredible accomplishment. Did you think about that this would be where you wound up years ago?
I am one fortunate man.
I've watched your career. I see it.
Yes.
But you're also highly skilled and are great at making relationships.
I am, in many ways, fortunate and blessed to be at the level that I am at. And I tell you what, I attribute that to my franchise partners. My team members and my colleagues. I have learned a great deal from them. I still have a lot to learn. But every step of the way, they have not only been my mentors, they have encouraged me, and they have provided me guidance and knowledge to take the next step. And I'm still learning. So
earlier in your career, you were at Wyndham, right?
Yes.
So what's it like being back?
I will tell you this, that I have referred to this as coming back home. I was with HFS Ascendant. My
goodness. I think we need to explain what that was.
Yeah, so the original forming of HFS was done by Mr. Henry Silverman and Mr.
This would probably
Steve
be the mid-1990s.
Actually, early. No, 1991.
He was in hotels that early?
Yes. So Mr. Steve Holmes and Mr. Henry Silverman bought Howard Johnson and Ramada. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of it in 1992.
Okay.
And I departed company sometime around in middle 2000, and that's when it was Ascendant, and it became Wyndham later on. I will tell you this: the growth of company is phenomenal. What I see a lot of differences. The leadership of Jeff Bellotti and the vision, the culture, the focus on and attention to quality, focus and attention to the services of franchisees, becoming the leading company in worldwide. They are the largest in number of units and even growing, and consistent growth with quality of services, product, and resources. And I see that focus at a much greater level than I have ever seen it before.
Yeah, I think that growth started back when I came into the business. I think my first year was 1996. We're recording this interview in Atlanta, and my first ever business trip was actually to see a new brand of a hotel debut, which I can't remember anymore. I think it's subsequently gone. And we got to go to the Olympics in 1996, which I thought was super cool, and I was hooked on the industry at that moment. But the reason why I mentioned 1996 is I recall, and again, I might be wrong, but the then HFS and eventually Ascendant, that's when they started really acquiring other brands. Is that correct?
So actually the process was started way before that too. After 1992, Days Inn acquisition happened, then Super 8 acquisition happened. So subsequently a lot of other acquisitions had happened. The noticing of acquisition and also getting involved in the other industry, a la vacation rentals, RCI, and car rentals.
And that's when the company became
Those
Ascendant.
are the things that may have started around that time.
Right, yeah, the memories are fuzzy.
I'm
getting older than I would like to admit at this point. So that's all really interesting. So how many brands are there now?
20.
20. Wow. I was going to say 100,000. But
I'm talking Wyndham.
Yes, I know.
Overall in the industry, I'm sure there are 100,000, nearly 100,000 brands.
All these companies are, creating new brands, acquiring so many new brands. It's really a fascinating place in hospitality history that we're sitting in right now. What do you make of this whole thing? I mean, you are a company that was absorbed by a larger company, and earlier in the interview, you talked about that consolidation being important. What does it mean, though, to you for all the competitors out there are doing the same thing? How does it change the competitive landscape? How does it change your thinking? And what do you have to do to succeed in this new world?
I think as I see it, fundamentals and the basics of our industry never go away. Take care of your guest, provide the best quality, offer the best services, and remain engaged in your community. If you as a hotel are doing that, potentially you will be highly successful. As far as brands are concerned, the demand and the needs of consumer has changed. There are different iteration of consumers that are looking for different type of hotel and facility, and that's why you see brands coming up with various different brands in various different categories. And I think in many ways I see it fitting because they are going to be able to have these brands become popular, successful, or sustainable, provided a developer is building and provided guests are coming and staying. And we are seeing that happening at a very, very good pace all throughout the industry. And I will tell you this, that more the competition, it keeps us more agile to stay on top of everything that you do with your employees, provide them the highest level of training with franchisees, provide them the highest level of resources, what type of return on investment they will have. All of these things come into consideration when you are growing your company.
So how do you see the overall vibe right now? As we're recording this interview, this is at the end of the Hunter Hotels Investment Conference here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I think the word of the day, again, we're back to that cautious optimism type of thing. Everyone was optimistic, now cautious optimistic. But everybody seems confused because we've been doing so well for so long, nobody knows how to psychologically process it.
I will tell you this. I loved the cartoon Tom Baltimore put up yesterday during his presentation that bears, everybody sees bears in sight, but when you come close to it, it is nothing but oasis, and we keep growing and growing and growing at a steady pace. I agree with everyone that we still have a runway ahead of us, right, for the growth. It may not be as into 5, 6, 7%, but a steady 2-3% growth will continue.
Which I think is pretty good, unless of course inflation goes too high, blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
But why do you think that this has been going on for so long? I mean, I have my ideas, but why do you think that this upswing has been fundamentally different than anything we've ever seen before in hospitality?
So if you look at the downturns of the past were caused by specific incidents. 9/11,
right. The banking crisis in the
early 90s. A banking crisis in the early 90s. Then you look at the Depression or recession, a Great Recession of 2008, and that was also sort of a banking crisis as well. And since then, we have been so steady in all of the areas. And the reality for our industry is that the supply growth has never caught up with the demand growth if you look at a 10-year history.
Right, and you look at the Great Recession as kind of being a giant reset button.
Exactly.
Because everybody stopped developing for so long. It was not good for a gentleman like you in the position at your time, but I think it's really done a whole lot to continue to contribute to the overall health of the operations side of the business for such a long period of time.
I think analytics has changed a lot.
Right.
So in the past, when we used to see overbuilding, now
right,
banks are so good at it in managing the flow of influx of new hotels, managing financing, and all of the other things. And same way, the research and the data that's available to the developer are so good that you are so careful in putting together a new project, and it makes it much, much easier for properties to be successful.
So a lot less mistakes, which leads to a lot less properties that might come out of the gate underperforming because they probably shouldn't have been approved in the first place.
That is so correct, yes. And also consolidation has helped as well because that allows industry and people to look at the picture in a much broader way.
What would you say to hoteliers, and they share their concerns that there's so much consolidation on it that it's going to be an issue for the franchisee community?
In my opinion, ultimately, the relationship over the last 25 years between franchisee and franchisor has become more transparent.
I mean, you think about the AHOA community, for example, how they started all about fair franchising, and now it's all about running the country and being in Capitol Hill. It's amazing.
Without a doubt. I tell you what, in my opinion, the relationship between franchisee and franchisor at a very good level. Interaction between franchisee and franchisor at a high level. Franchisors do everything with the feedback from franchise community. Decision-making process, in majority of the cases, involve feedback from franchise community, whether it's marketing, whether it's new prototype, whether it's design, whether it's renovation, whether it's brand standard. Brand advisory councils have become a very integral part of decision-making for the companies. So I think all of the decisions about new brands, all of the decisions about consolidation are taken into consideration. Very simply put, how is it going to benefit franchisees?
Right.
In my opinion, that allows you to create much greater loyalty of the guest. It allows you to generate higher level of business from your proprietary channels. Number 3, it gives you buying power with OTAs, with procurement, with purchasing, and save money for franchisees. And it also gives you much greater level of loyalty among the guests because you're able to offer various different level of hotels based on their need and the place that they're going to. So it becomes much easier to generate that long-lasting loyalty that we are always seeking for.
Right. That is really perfectly stated. And I think I could sum up the relationship between franchisees and franchisors and how it's matured over the 20 years that I've been in the business. To speak in Gen Z talk, I think you've gone from frenemies to BFFs. Right?
Yes. You know what? And even the loyalty within franchisee and franchisor has become a critical component. How do you measure a success of a brand like La Quinta? 60% of our business comes from within. What does it mean? Existing franchisees are doing more product. They're going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And they're showing tremendous interest in doing other Wyndham products as well. And that clearly shows that how much they believe in the leadership, how much they believe in the brand, and how much they have enjoyed the successes by having a relationship with us.
Last topic I want to talk about is your current role, president of La Quinta. You did franchise sales for so long. What has changed for you in your day-to-day role as president of a hotel brand?
I tell you what, not much. In fact, if you look at, I was more or less in charge of all parts of franchising aspect, from franchise development to franchise operations to franchise administration to franchise legal to franchise training to design and construction, procurement, and all of the other things. So most of the time this year has been spent on integration. This year has been spent on giving our brand more recognition internationally. This year has been spent on integrating Wyndham resources within La Quinta, merger of the culture, merger of the offices, and continuing to educate our franchise partner on what lies ahead.
Right.
And that's what takes majority of my time.
That sounds like a lot of fun, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So in that same vein, how do you, as the leader of the brand, integrate cultures? You know, are you just a figurehead, or do you say do A, B, and C? How does that work?
You know, I tell you what, culture is created by people that you surround yourself. Franchisees and the guests create culture. So our culture is direct reflection of what our franchisees think of us. And luckily, Wyndham and La Quinta happens to have very similar culture, very similar values, and our approach is quite identical, and that helps a great deal. So our culture is all about relationship. Our culture is all about transparency and integrity. And you see that in the franchisees and us.
What's the most interesting thing or most important thing or valuable thing that you've learned since becoming president of the La Quinta brand?
You know, in relationship, every day I know how important relationship is, and every day I wake up and realize that it is even more important than I think. And as you grow in the industry, trust, relationship, and communications are the 3 most critical components of it.
Do people treat you differently that you're president of a brand instead of the top franchise guy?
I think Raj is Raj. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And you know, I think I have a long way to go. There are a lot of more accomplished people, and in fact, each franchisee that I deal with is more accomplished than I could ever be.
Oh, that's a very nice thing to say to people. Well, what can I say? Raj, anything else that you would think that we need to get off your chest today? Maybe
not at all. Thank you for this opportunity. Had a great time, great conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Raj. But you got to give a shameless plug. I let all my interviewees at the end tell us how to find you, how to buy a franchise, anything that you want.
No, absolutely. I mean, Wyndham has become a company with tremendous commitment of relationship, tremendous commitment of quality, tremendous commitment to great resources for our franchise partner. And I invite, each and every franchise partner to come speak with us. If they're doing business with us, I'm grateful, thankful for their trust in us and our brands. And I'm hoping and looking forward to growing relationship and even at a greater level.
Beautiful. Raj, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, sir.
And I want to thank each and every one of you listeners for being here every single week on the No Vacancy podcast. Make sure you find me at Traveling Glenn everywhere on social media. Like our Facebook page. Give us that 5-star rating in iTunes and everywhere else that you find your podcast. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week. That is unless I decide to go to Europe and open myself up a La Quinta. See you all next time.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.